The discovery. The endless hum of recycling systems echoed through the maintenance tunnels of Zarian 7 as Marcus Kane crawled through the narrow ventilation shaft, his tool belt clanking against the metal walls. 23 years old and already tired of the universe, Marcus had been stuck on this remote mining station for 3 years, fixing whatever broke down in the outer rim's forgotten corner of space. The station hung like a metal tumor against the asteroid's rocky surface, its dull gray corridors filled with the desperate and the exiled. Most workers here were running from something, whether it was debt, the law, or memories they couldn't escape. Marcus was running from all three. His handheld scanner beeped twice, indicating another power fluctuation in section C7, the same section that had been giving him trouble for months. Every time he fixed one relay, another would fail, as if something was drawing power from the main grid without authorization. The station's AI systems showed no anomalies, but Marcus had learned to trust his instincts over machines. He dropped, through an access hatch into sub-level 5, a part of the station that most workers avoided. The lighting here was dim, running on emergency power only. The air recyclers worked harder in this section, fighting against some unknown contamination that the sensors couldn't identify. Marcus had always wondered why the Dominion had built this section with such heavy shielding, but asking questions about Dominion activities was a good way to disappear. The power fluctuation readings led him deeper into the section than he had ever ventured before. Past the standard storage bays and equipment rooms, he found himself in a corridor that his station maps claimed didn't exist. The walls here were different too, made from some dark alloy that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. Ancient symbols were etched into the metal, designs that looked nothing like current Dominion architecture. Marcus checked his scanner again. The power drain was definitely coming from this direction, somewhere beyond the sealed blast door at the corridors. And the door bore the crimson seal of the Dominion High Command, with warnings in 6 different languages about unauthorized access being punishable by immediate execution. He had 2 choices: return to his quarters, file a report about the power drain, and let someone else deal with it, or satisfy the curiosity that had been eating at him for months and find out what was really down here. The smart choice was obvious, but Marcus had never been accused of being smart. The blast door's locking mechanism was complex, designed to keep people out rather than in. Marcus pulled out his portable fusion cutter, a tool that was definitely not supposed to be used for breaking into restricted areas. The Dominion had executed people for less, but something about this place felt different, important, as if 20 years of secrecy was about to end. The fusion cutter sliced through the lock mechanism like butter through steel. The blast door groaned as its massive hydraulics slowly pushed it open, revealing a chamber that took Marcus's breath away. The room was vast, far larger than should have been possible given the station's layout. Bioluminescent panels lined the walls, casting an eerie blue glow over rows of containment pods arranged in perfect symmetry. Most of the pods were empty, their transparent aluminum shells fogged with age, but one pod, positioned at the chamber's center, still hummed with active systems. Marcus approached the functioning pod slowly, his heart hammering against his ribs. Inside the transparent shell, suspended in some kind of fluid, was a figure that made him question everything he thought he knew about the universe. She was humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin had a pearl-like quality that shifted between silver and pale blue depending on the light. Intricate markings covered her arms and face. Not tattoos, but what appeared to be natural patterns in her skin that pulsed with a faint inner light. Her hair was white as starlight, flowing around her face like liquid mercury. Even in stasis, there was something regal about her bearing. Her features were sharp and aristocratic, with high cheekbones and a strong jawline that spoke of noble blood. She wore what looked like ceremonial armor, crafted from materials Marcus didn't recognize. The breastplate bore a symbol he had seen before in ancient texts, the mark of the Vorthak hegemony. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. The Vorthak had been extinct for over 20 years, wiped out during the Great Purge when the Dominion had systematically eliminated every race that posed a potential threat to human expansion. Or so the history books claimed. He circled the pod, reading the status displays with growing amazement. The woman had been in stasis for exactly 21 years, 7 months and 16 days. The life support systems were running perfectly, maintaining her in a state between life and death. But the power requirements were enormous, which explained the mysterious energy drain he had been tracking. A data panel near the pod's base contained files marked with the highest level of Dominion classification. Marcus connected his portable terminal to the panel, his hands shaking as he bypassed the security protocols. The information that flooded his screen changed everything he thought he knew about the war. Her name was Zalara Keth Voren, Crown Princess of the Vorthak hegemony, and the last surviving member of her species' royal bloodline. But she hadn't been captured in battle or executed with the rest of her people. According to the classified files, she had been sentenced to eternal stasis for the crime of treason against the Dominion. Marcus scrolled through the trial records, his anger building with every page. Zalara's crime hadn't been violence or terrorism. She had committed the unforgivable sin of showing mercy to human refugees. During the final days of the Vorthak Dominion War, when her own people were being systematically exterminated, she had used her position to smuggle human civilians to safety. The irony was bitter. While the Dominion painted the Vorthak as monsters, in their propaganda, this woman had risked everything to save human lives. And her reward had been 20 years of conscious imprisonment, aware but unable to move, speak, or die. The files contained detailed psychological profiles documenting her mental state during stasis. The Dominion scientists had deliberately designed the process to keep prisoners conscious, claiming it was more humane than execution. Marcus knew better. It was torture, pure and simple, a way to break someone's spirit completely while maintaining the fiction of civilized justice. But the most shocking revelation came in the final section of her file. Zalara possessed detailed knowledge of hidden human colonies beyond Dominion space, refuges where thousands of civilians had fled during various conflicts. The Dominion had kept her alive not out of mercy, but because they needed that information. They had been trying to extract it from her mind for 2 decades, using techniques that would have driven most beings insane. Marcus stared at the sleeping figure in the pod, his mind racing. The current war between the Dominion and the Outer Rim resistance had been going badly for the rebels. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and running out of places to hide. But if Zalara's information could lead them to those hidden colonies, to populations of humans who had successfully escaped Dominion control, it could change everything. The sound of approaching footsteps in the corridor outside made Marcus's blood freeze. He quickly disconnected his terminal and moved behind one of the empty pods, listening as multiple sets of boots echoed through the chamber entrance. Through the shadows, he watched as 3 Dominion security officers entered the room, their uniforms bearing the insignia of the Internal Affairs Division. The lead officer, a tall man with cybernetic implants covering half his face, approached Zalara's pod with casual familiarity. "Status report on the asset," he ordered. One of his subordinates checked the pod's readings. "Psychological barriers holding steady, sir. The subject continues to resist neural extraction attempts, but our analysts believe she's weakening. Perhaps another 5 years and we'll have full access to the colonial database." 5 years. The cyborg officer repeated with disgust. "The High Command is getting impatient. They want those colony locations now, not in half a decade. Have the technicians increase the pressure on her neural pathways. If she breaks completely, so be it. Better to get partial information than none at all." Marcus gripped his tool belt to keep his hands from shaking. They were going to torture her mind until it shattered, extracting what they could before throwing away what remained. After everything she had sacrificed to save human lives, this was how humanity repaid her. The officers completed their inspection and left, their footsteps fading back down the corridor. Marcus waited another 10 minutes before emerging from his hiding place. He stood before Zalara's pod, studying her peaceful face and wondering what dreams or nightmares filled her suspended consciousness. For the first time in 3 years, Marcus had something more important to think about than his own problems. This woman had risked everything to save people she didn't even know, people whose own government now planned to destroy her. The least he could do was return the favor, But freeing her would mean declaring war on the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Once they discovered her escape, the Dominion would hunt them both to the ends of space. Marcus would lose his job, his safety, probably his life. Everything sensible told him to walk away, to forget what he had seen and return to his quiet existence fixing broken machines. Instead, Marcus pulled out his terminal and began studying the pod's technical specifications. If the Vorthak had built this stasis system, then there had to be a way to reverse it safely. He was good with machines, had always been able to figure out how things worked, and if he could free her, maybe together they could find a way to save both their peoples from the war that was consuming the galaxy. The first step would be gathering the right equipment without raising suspicions. The second would be finding a way to safely revive someone who had been in stasis for over 20 years. The third would be getting them both off the station before the Dominion realized what had happened. Marcus looked at Zalara's face one more time, then turned and headed back toward the maintenance sections. He had work to do, and for the first time in years it felt like work that actually mattered. The forgotten princess would sleep one more night, but not many more. He was going to wake her up, and together they were going to remind the galaxy what real courage looked like. The Liberation Marcus spent 3 sleepless days planning the rescue. He memorized every security rotation, every power coupling, and every emergency protocol on Zerion 7. The stasis pod's technical manual had taken him 18 hours to decode, but he finally understood how the Vorthak technology worked. The revival process would require precise timing and specialized equipment that he would have to steal piece by piece without raising suspicions. The hardest part was acting normal while his mind raced with possibilities and dangers. During his regular maintenance rounds, Marcus gathered the components he needed: a neural stabilizer from the medical bay, power regulators from the engine room, and most importantly, a portable life support unit from the emergency supplies. Each theft was carefully planned to look like routine equipment redistribution. On the 4th night, when the station's skeleton crew was at its smallest, Marcus made his move. He carried his equipment through the maintenance tunnels, his heart pounding so loudly he was sure the security sensors would detect it. The blast door to the hidden chamber stood exactly as he had left it, the fusion cutter marks barely visible in the dim lighting. The chamber felt different this time, charged with anticipation rather than mystery. Marcus set up his equipment around Zalara's pod, connecting power feeds and monitoring systems with the careful precision of someone whose life depended on getting it right. Because it did. If he made a mistake during the revival process, he could kill her or leave her, brain damaged beyond repair. The stasis pod's control systems were works of art, far more sophisticated than anything the Dominion had ever built. Marcus found himself admiring the Vorthak engineering even as he worked to reverse it. Every component was perfectly balanced, designed to sustain life indefinitely without causing cellular degradation. No wonder the Dominion had been so eager to steal their technology along with their worlds. Marcus initiated the revival sequence at exactly 0300 hours station time. The pod systems responded immediately, beginning the delicate process of returning Zalara to full consciousness. Fluid levels dropped gradually while temperature and pressure readings climbed toward normal ranges. Neural activity monitors showed her brain patterns shifting from the deep stasis state toward natural sleep cycles. 20 minutes into the process, her eyes began to move beneath closed lids. Marcus watched the readings carefully, making minute adjustments to keep everything within safe parameters. The Vorthak physiology was similar enough to human that his medical knowledge applied, but different enough that he was essentially performing experimental surgery. At 43 minutes, Zalara's eyes opened. Marcus found himself staring into pupils that shifted color like oil on water, cycling through shades of silver, blue, and deep violet. For a moment, she simply looked at him without recognition, her mind still trapped between sleep and waking. Then awareness flooded back into her features, and she tried to sit up too quickly. "Easy," Marcus said, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You've been asleep for over 20 years. Your body needs time to remember how to work." Zalara's voice came out as barely a whisper, her vocal cords unused for decades. Who are you? Are you Dominion? My name is Marcus Kane. I'm human, but I'm not Dominion. Not anymore. He helped her sit up slowly, supporting her weight as circulation returned to limbs that had been still for too long. I found your prison and read your file. I know what you did for my people during the war. Her eyes widened with surprise and something that might have been hope. The refugees made it to safety? According to the records, yes. Thousands of humans escaped because of your actions. Marcus handed her a water container, watching as she drank with the careful concentration of someone relearning basic functions. The Dominion kept you alive because they wanted information about hidden human colonies. They've been trying to break into your mind for 20 years. Zalara's expression hardened, and Marcus saw a glimpse of the warrior princess she had once been. They will never have that information. Those people trusted me with their lives. I would die before betraying them. You might not have to, Marcus said. The galaxy has changed since you've been asleep. There's a resistance movement now. Humans fighting against Dominion expansion. If we can get you to them, your information could help save millions of lives instead of destroying them. Zalara studied his face with those shifting eyes, reading intentions and character with the intensity of someone who had learned to judge people quickly and accurately. Why would you help me? You risk your life for someone you do not know. Marcus had asked himself the same question 100 times over the past 3 days. Because someone has to. Because 20 years ago, you risked everything to save people who weren't your responsibility. Because the Dominion calls itself human, but there's nothing human about what they've done to you. A smile touched Zalara's lips, the first expression of warmth he had seen from her. You sound like my father. He always said that honor was not about bloodline or species, but about choosing to do what is right when no one is watching. Smart, man, Marcus said. Can you stand? Zalara nodded and pushed herself upright with determined effort. Her legs wobbled, but she remained standing through sheer willpower. The ceremonial armor she wore fit her perfectly, adjusting automatically to her movements with technology that made Dominion equipment look primitive by comparison. How long do we have? She asked, already thinking tactically. The security shift change happens at 600 hours. That gives us 2 hours and 47 minutes to get off this station before they discover you're missing. Marcus shouldered his equipment pack and led her toward the chamber exit. I've got a plan, but it's going to require some improvisation. They moved through the maintenance tunnels with Marcus leading and Zalara following close behind. Despite 20 years in stasis, her natural grace returned quickly. She moved like a predator, silent and fluid, adapting to the confined spaces with inhuman agility. Marcus found himself impressed, despite their desperate circumstances. The Vorthak were warriors, she explained quietly when she noticed his glances. We trained from childhood in combat and survival. My body remembers what my mind had forgotten. They reached the first checkpoint without incident, but Marcus could hear activity in the main corridors that suggested something was wrong. His handheld communicator crackled with confused chatter from the night security team. Someone had discovered the open blast door. Change of plans, Marcus whispered. They know you're out. We need to move faster. Zalara's eyes flashed with something that might have been excitement. Then we stop hiding and start fighting. This isn't a war, Marcus protested. It's an escape. We just need to reach the docking bay without getting caught. Everything is a war when the Dominion is involved, Zalara replied. Trust me, I have experience. Alarm klaxons began wailing throughout the station as they reached the junction leading to the main corridors. Emergency. Lighting bathed everything in red, and Marcus could hear boots running in multiple directions as security teams mobilized. They had perhaps 15 minutes before the entire station was locked down completely. Marcus pulled out his fusion cutter and handed Zalara a plasma torch from his equipment pack. The docking bay is 3 levels up and 4 sections over. There are 17 different routes we could take, but most of them will be crawling with guards by now. What about the most direct route? Zalara asked. Straight through the security command center. Suicide. Zalara's smile was sharp as a blade. Perfect. They will never expect it. Before Marcus could object, she was moving toward the main corridor with the confidence of someone who had led armies into battle. Marcus cursed under his breath and followed, wondering how his carefully planned escape had turned into a frontal assault. The security command center was located in the station's heart, surrounded by reinforced bulkheads and automated defense systems. As they approached, Marcus counted at least 8 guards visible through the transparent aluminum windows, all armed with military-grade weapons and wearing full combat armor. "This is insane," he muttered. "Sanity is overrated," Zalara replied. She studied the security setup with a tactical eye, noting weapon positions and sight lines. "How many guards total?" 24 on this shift, plus automated systems. Acceptable odds." Zalara checked her plasma torch and nodded toward a ventilation intake above the command center entrance. "Can you override their door controls from up there?" Marcus looked at the intake, mentally calculating access routes and system vulnerabilities. "Maybe, but even if I can get the doors open, you'll be facing 8 armed guards alone." 8 guards who have never fought a Vorthak warrior, Zalara corrected. "Open the doors in exactly 90 seconds, then head for the docking bay. I will catch up." Before Marcus could argue further, Zalara sprinted toward the command center entrance with inhuman speed. The guard spotted her immediately and opened fire, but she moved like liquid lightning, dodging between cover points with impossible grace. Marcus watched in amazement as she reached the entrance unharmed, despite the concentrated firepower directed at her. He climbed into the ventilation system and crawled toward the door control junction, listening to the sounds of battle below. Plasma bursts lit up the corridor like a deadly light show, but he could hear Zalara's voice above the chaos, shouting what sounded like war cries in her native language. Marcus reached the control junction and connected his portable terminal to the door systems. The override took longer than expected, the security protocols fighting his every command. Through the ventilation grating, he could see Zalara engaging multiple guards simultaneously, her plasma torch cutting through armor like paper while she used their own equipment as improvised weapons. Finally, the doors cycled open. Marcus dropped back into the corridor to find 7 guards unconscious or disabled, their weapons scattered across the floor. Zalara stood over them, breathing hard but uninjured, her armor's energy patterns pulsing with increased intensity. 93 seconds, she said with satisfaction. Close enough. They commandeered the security center's transport vehicle and raced toward the docking bay as station-wide alerts declared a full emergency lockdown. Marcus's access codes still worked, barely, getting them through the outer checkpoints before the computer systems caught up with their escape. The docking bay held a dozen small craft, from cargo haulers to courier ships. Marcus led Zalara toward a sleek transport vessel he had been servicing for the past month. It was fast, well-armed, and most importantly, fueled and ready for launch. "Can you pilot this?" Zalara asked as they boarded. "Well enough to get us away from here," Marcus replied, powering up the engines. "Where do we go?" Zalara settled into the co-pilot seat and activated the navigation systems with familiar ease. Coordinates appeared on the display, pointing toward a region of space that Marcus's charts marked as unexplored territory. "The Kepler Nebula," she said. "There is a resistance cell there that has been waiting 20 years for the information I carry. Hidden colonies, supply routes, weapon caches, that the Dominion knows nothing about." Her eyes met his as the transport lifted off. "Are you ready to start a revolution, Marcus Kane?" The docking bay doors opened to reveal the star-filled void of space. Behind them, Zerion 7 was already launching pursuit craft, but Marcus felt no fear. For the first time in his life, he was exactly where he belonged. "Let's go wake up the galaxy," he said, and pushed the engines to full power. As they jumped to hyperspace, leaving the mining station far behind, Marcus realized that his quiet life of fixing broken machines was over. Now he was part of something bigger, something that might actually fix the broken galaxy itself. And beside him sat a warrior princess who had spent 20 years in hell rather than betray the innocent, ready to lead them all toward a better future. The revolution had begun.